at some point, I just remember going down the road and not realizing how fast I was going. And like it felt really good. And then I realized how fast I was going. And then like the bubble burst because the only thing I could think of was how easily I could die. Welcome to The Intimate Philosopher, where philosophy meets intimacy and life's biggest questions finally feel at home. I'm Dr. Emma Smith. I'm a licensed professional counselor, certified sex therapist, and existential philosophy nerd, inviting you to join me for an after-hours conversation. This is a space to slow down, pour a glass of wine, or maybe a cup of tea, and explore the messy, beautiful intersections of meaning, connection, desire, and being fully human. This is the place for real conversations about the parts of life that don't fit neatly into a box. So, grab your glass, get comfy, and let's dive in. Hi, friends, and welcome back to The Intimate Philosopher. Today, we are going to jump back into all things flow state with Dr. Alivia Stehlik. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hi. And I just realized this is episode 30, which I am super excited about.
Can you believe that? We've done 30 episodes of this and we've been doing them weekly. And so that means we've been doing this for 30 weeks, which is more than half a year.
I love that. I love that. This is one of my favorite things that I think that I have ever given myself permission to do.
We talked last time about the race and,
Mhm.
you know, we promised you the race. We don't know where we're going to go with this podcast, and nobody knows where we're going with this podcast. But we are on this journey together, and it has been interesting and it has been fun. And I've been really glad that we've been
Yeah.
doing it.
Me too. Me too. And it's been so meaningful. It's been interesting. There's a couple things. One is that when I turned 30, right? 30 is is a special number for me. When I turned 30,
I
it
didn't
was
know this.
yeah, yeah. So when I turned 30, it was the first time that I felt like an adult.
Hmm.
Yeah. It was this moment where I was like, "Oh, I actually get to have an opinion about things." And this may come from the fact that I am technically I'm an only child, right? But I was raised in this small town around all of my cousins, and I am the youngest of all 16 cousins, right? And so it was like I'm always going to be the baby of the family. But I remember that 30 was the first time that I felt like I could actually give an opinion or say something, maybe not to my family. I mean, I'm always going to be the baby in my family, so who knows?
Yeah.
But just as an adult out in the world, like I felt like I actually could say something.
Mm.
And so I'm kind of like, oh, I wonder if the 30th episode is going to have that same kind of quality to it where I'm like, all right, you know what? We've been doing this for a little bit here. And now I'm just going to say something and here we go. But there is kind of this reflective quality to like where we started when I wasn't even going to risk having another person on the show with me because I didn't know what I was doing. And this like kind of fumbling around in the dark quality
Well, and
to
before
that.
that, I think you were even nervous about having a podcast because it meant putting yourself out in the world in a really big way. It's different than, I found this out in my early 30s as well, that it was very different to have one-on-one encounters with patients than it was to walk into an auditorium, with hundreds of your peers, right?
Mhm.
Those are different experiences, and podcasts are, the whole world can listen. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I think from that, like, ooh, I don't know, that feels like a lot, to where you are now.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the end of the last episode, you were like, let's talk about sex because my listeners said, we're not talking enough about sex. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's some
Mhm.
growth. That feels like magic to me.
Yeah. No, I love it, and I love that people are feeling cared about enough or like they're relevant enough to know that when they say, "Hey, I wanna hear you talk more about this," right? Or like, "Yeah, what you're saying is interesting, but also here's where I wish you were spending more time," that it is received and it is, reflected back, as soon as we can, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's always a little bit of a lag,
right.
but, that we're doing that. And the other thing that happened that I think is so cool is, people a lot of therapists, especially in Nashville. I Nashville has a ton of therapists on social media who are, like, big accounts in social media, and I am not one of them. And you know what? I, like, wear that as a badge of honor because I am like, "Nope, this is not happening." And somebody on one of the accounts at some point was like, "Oh, yeah, this is how I get clients." That it was a recruiting thing. And I was like, I have been on Instagram since the beginning, right? Like, I remember when people thought I was crazy for having a professional social media presence on Instagram. And I have never, at least to my knowledge, I have never gotten a single client off of Instagram,
Yeah.
right? We've been doing this 6 months, and I have gotten more clients from this in the last 6 months, which I just said that's 0 for Instagram, so, like, the bar is low, but just pretend that it wasn't super low. There have been so many people who have reached out. I mean, more than I ever thought would reach out to say, "Hey, I would love to work with you." And unfortunately, if you are not in one of the 5 states that I am licensed in, then I just have to help you find the right people where you're licensed or where you live who are licensed there. But that is so meaningful that people have reached out and said, "Hey, like, I wanna work with you because I know your perspective on things." And so, I don't know, 30 just feels like this lovely moment to celebrate that, and yeah, it's been really lovely. So and it's also meaningful to I love connecting people with other incredible folks, and I think from having lived lots of different places, having taught at the university, having done lots of trainings and gone on retreats, and et cetera, et cetera. I actually know a lot of really great therapists in a lot of really awesome places. And so I think my next mile marker would be if somebody reaches out to one of my guests and says, "Hey, I heard you on this podcast and I want to work with you."
Mm,
I feel like that would be like very rewarding. 'Cause
that'd
they're
be
all over
really
the
cool.
place. Yeah,
Yeah.
right? I love that.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, so that's my happy birthday, happy 30th episode.
Happy 30th birthday, babe.
Thank you. Isn't that love? Yes, I would love to be 30 again. Oh, I do
No,
actually
not
love the
me.
40s.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm good where I am.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
did you feel like an adult?
Do I?
Oh.
I mean, there have been lots of different points in my life where I have felt new waves of adultness.
Mhm.
I was laughing about the 30 when you said that because 30 is when I first came out,
Mm.
to, not publicly to the world, but to people that, uh, it started to matter. It started to be public. So,
Yeah.
it's a big year for me too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
how about that?
Okay. All right.
Um,
So, should
Back to
we
flow state,
yeah, there
back to the podcast.
yes, there's no we're not even gonna try an elegant transition. We're
No.
just gonna say pivot,
Yeah.
pivot.
So I'm gonna say the same disclaimer that we did last time. It'll be different because I can't repeat the same thing word for word. But when we say that we're talking about flow state, it's important to recognize that the research on flow state has actually been predominantly done in athletes, and this is the intimate philosopher. Neither one of us are neuroscientists. And so we are taking some concepts from this idea of flow state from this TEDx Nashville talk that we went to. Shout out TEDx Nashville. We've had such a great time being involved in their Science of Woo series this summer. It has been lovely, and flow state was one of them. And so we are taking the thoughts that were presented there by some neuroscientists, by some coaches, by some athletes, by some folks who do a lot of different things, and we're applying them to the things that we work with, like the things that we work on, to relationships and sex and intimacy and injury and all of that. So um, we're not maybe this isn't any like capital T truth here. It is our perspective or our lived experience or our thoughts. And the idea or the goal is to prompt your thoughts, not to tell you what is true per se, but to give you a new window into part of life.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So, yeah, flow state. I mean, when we last left off, we left off with relationships and sex, and I really want to transition this over into your realm, which is performance.
Yeah, so that's true. I have been a physical therapist for the last decade,
Mhm.
and most of my career has been around human performance optimization. That has been, I've done, some injury rehabilitation, that's part of it. Um, but a lot of it is around performance optimization. And
Mhm.
so this idea of flow state, like where do you feel flow state? Where do you feel like you're in this place of the challenge is equal to my ability, and that is at a high enough level that like I'm in it.
Oh, you want me to answer
Yeah, yeah,
it?
yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a question. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this question because this is going to be fun for us.
This is she's laughing and poking at me because when we were talking about this, I was like, "Oh god, you're going to talk about performance at this high level athletics and all of this kind of stuff." And I realized that one of the places that I slip easiest into flow state is when I'm doing research and writing because the nerdiness is real. I mean, it just runs so deep. Like that is, I was writing a speech yesterday because I'm going to be doing a lot more public speaking, and I was thinking about how to construct this, this journey because you want to one of the things like I hate more than anything is a terrible public speaker. It is just grating. And so one of the things that people you the best public speakers take the audience on this journey. And so you really have to craft like it's not even just about what you're saying, but how you're saying it and making sure that the audience is with you the whole time. And I went, yesterday we kind of do this thing where we'll break for dinner and then we will maybe possibly say, okay, like I'm going to do another hour or so of work and we'll like, go our separate ways and then we'll come back. And I realized at one point, I went and I sat down at my desk and I continued writing. And I looked up, and what felt like 5 minutes later, and an hour had flown by. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's been an hour. What the heck? And so, and I wrapped up what I was doing, and then we came back together because, time together is important. Okay, folks, it's time for a quick sponsor break. And this one is a paid partnership, and it's about a product that I actually use. It's called the 9 to Kind Possibility Planner. It's undated, therapist created, and honestly, it's the first planner that I've stuck with because it's not built around perfection. No shame spirals if you miss a week, no toxic positivity goal pages. It's designed for people committed to progress and not perfection. And that is exactly why I love it. So go to 9tokind.com and use code Emma20 for 20% off your order. That's 9tokind.com, code Emma20. Supporting them helps support this show. So, but yeah, that was I knew we were going to talk about this today. And I was like, oh no, I'm really like, that's how much of a nerd I am. that's where I hit flow state easiest. Blah. I don't know how I feel about that.
No, we feel good about that. The reason that I asked you that is because I actually think it's really important to say that you can be in flow state in a lot of places. I think, there's this idea of, oh, that's for superior athletes or for the elite athletes, and that's the only place that you hit this. And I don't think that's true. Right. I just don't think that's true. I don't think we have a lot of research, yes, yet that can prove that that's not the only place. But I think that there's there's clear and ample evidence just in our daily lives. And so I think that's important to say that don't write off this idea of being in flow state or this idea of this kind of ideal state of challenge and ability and just like riding that wave. Don't write that off if you're not an elite athlete. Neither one of us are elite athletes. Most people aren't elite athletes. And so, that may be flow state may happen in some different place for you, right?
Mm.
Like I am not an elite athlete, but I hit flow state in the gym. I think that I am most like physically and like engaged in my body and in my being when I'm at the gym. Like that is the happy place for me. And I said last time I think you can be pushed over the edge out of flow state and the hardest workouts aren't the ones where it's flow state. It's where you've hit this ideal, for me at least, this ideal balance of like I'm right on the edge of this is good, it's challenging, but I'm not pushing myself so hard that I really have to be thinking about every single thing I'm doing, right? Like that's too much effort,
Mm.
right? Like if you're at 9 or 10 out of 10 effort, it's not flow state. You can't be at flow state there. It has to be backed off a little bit from that, at least in my experience.
Mhm.
I don't know. I experienced flow state on the motorcycle where you have to be so engaged. You can't, I don't think. I mean, I don't know how you ride a motorcycle and not be engaged deeply in what you're doing. Um, like when you're driving a car, everybody's had that experience of like getting to your exit and being like, oh man, where have I been for the last 10 minutes? Um, that doesn't happen on a motorcycle. You don't wake up at, at your exit and be like, where have I been? Like, no, 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 no. That doesn't happen because you have to be engaged. There is
Yeah.
no passive motorcycle riding.
Yeah. That's so good because one of the things I was thinking about with, my example of writing and getting super lost in this moment, and then your example with riding the motorcycle is I think it's really easy to talk about hyper focus
Mm,
and, because people will talk about like, well, I just get hyper focused on something. I'm thinking about all my ADHDers, right? And we'll touch on this and then we can come back to it. But like, that's not what we're talking about, right? It's different than that. It's different than dissociating into TikTok for hours on end and losing time. It's not just about losing time. And I think that's what's so important about what you're talking about, like, with the motorcycle. Like, I just wonder, just to kinda drive home that parallel, do you feel a compression or an expansion of time on the motorcycle?
yeah, I mean, I think it, yes, I think that I think when you're saying compression of time, it's that you didn't think you were doing the thing very long and it was actually much longer. Or
Mhm.
it's yeah, I think sometimes I feel that, but I also do feel that expansion sometimes where it's just like you're lost in the experience, then you come back and you're like, "Oh, that wasn't actually as long as I thought," but I was so in tune with what was happening
Mhm.
that and this happens too. I think we talk about this with new experiences that doing something novel can prolong the experience. And
Yeah.
every motorcycle ride is different. Um, right? Like even though you're doing the same thing, it's a new experience every time because one of the things that if you don't ride a motorcycle, you may not know, and I didn't mean to turn this show into the show about motorcycling, but here we are. If you've never been on a motorcycle before, if you've never ridden a motorcycle on the street, what you may not know is that There are different temperatures at every point on the road. If you're in a
Mhm.
car, you don't know that. But the temperature changes from point to point, from mile to mile, from 100 yards to 100 yards, and you feel those degrees change. Even if the sun is the same, even if it's not the sun going behind a cloud, you feel the difference. You feel a difference in humidity as you ride mile by mile. You feel a difference in how wet or dry or dusty the ground is or the air is. Like, if the air is a little bit grittier than normal, you feel that on your skin, like any exposed area. You hear everything, you smell everything, right? Like, you've been on a road trip in a car and you'll smell I think what's the classic, like either like a cow farm or a like dog food processing plant, or like
Oh,
maybe a skunk. Those are
okay.
like the 3, like, big smells I think that in a car you'll still smell, but on a motorcycle, you smell if it's been wet, if there's been rain, like, you smell the sunlight, like, you smell every passing everything, you smell every restaurant you drive by, you smell every car's different fumes, you smell all of the everything that's happening because you're out in it, and so even if you ride the same route
Mhm.
every day it's a different drive
Mhm.
because uh, you have to be so engaged that you notice all of those things and they are different every time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in this moment, I'm like, motorcycling is the ideal analogy for relationships. I haven't put that all together yet, but I think it's coming.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to our episode on that. That's so fascinating. You're right. I think I don't know how many people know this, but I too got my motorcycle license.
You did.
I did. I did. And that was a benchmark of 40, right?
It
Where I was
was.
like, "Oh gosh." And that was so fascinating because I don't think I ever got to the place of proficiency. Like I had the motorcycle, I did the course, I got my license and I practiced and whatnot. And and I even went out on the road. I even rode by myself a couple times, right? And at some point, I just remember going down the road and not realizing how fast I was going. And like it felt really good. And then I realized how fast I was going. And then like the bubble burst because the only thing I could think of was how easily I could die. And I remember being in this moment, I don't even know if I told you this. I remember being in this moment of having that awareness and then having to be like, and if you keep thinking that, you will. Right. And having to like really back myself down from that moment and saying, the only thing you need to do right now is focus on what you're doing because if you don't, that is actually how you're going to get hurt. And and having this, you know, self control. It was like the ultimate act of self control to be that because I was afraid. I mean, there was this moment where I was like, "Oh my god!" Like there's nothing between me and the pavement right now, right? There's Kevlar, and I don't want to test that out, and having to say, my mom. I grew up with my mom telling me panic is a luxury. And I have told different people that, and they have had big feelings about what she said to me.
I believe that.
And yet, like that of the many conversations that my mother and I have had that maybe landed wrong, that one has always landed right for me. And in that moment, I was so grateful that I had been raised by a woman who was a burn unit nurse and an ICU nurse, right? Like that's the context where that comes from of saying, not now, and being able to, like, pull that together and put that back into where it belonged so I could get home safe, right? But, like, I did that and I had that moment, and then I overextended probably my skill set. I pushed my limit too far, and then I had to pull it back, and then did get home safe, right? And I made myself ride again after that. But then after a while, I was like, do you know when I hit flow state? I hit flow state on the back of your motorcycle,
Mm.
right? Like that's where I never got to. The reason I'm bringing this up is because as you're talking about all the smells and all of the temperature changes and those things, I have had that experience, but it was only ever on the back of your motorcycle because I was able to be fully engrossed in the moment and engaged in the moment because I wasn't afraid,
Mm.
right?
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a little tiny piece of it on mine,
Yeah.
but for you, like when I'm thinking about relating to what you're saying, it has always happened on the back of your motorcycle.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I love that.
Me too. Me too. Let me pause the episode for a second because I want to ask you something. When is the last time that your partner looked at you like the person they married and not the co manager of your household? If you're running your life together flawlessly, the schedules, finances, the kids, all of it, but somewhere along the way you became project partners instead of lovers, I have a name for that. I call it roommate mode. And it's not a sign that anything is wrong with you or your relationship, but it is a sign that the exact skills that make you excellent at everything else are working against you in this one area. I'm teaching how to break it live and one night only with a couple of friends on August 14th. The spots are limited and I'm not recording this one. So if you want in, DM me the word reclaim or click the link in the show notes and I'll get you all set up before it fills.
I had this whole outline of where we were going to go with this episode. And as much as I didn't think of motorcycles and relationships as um, where we were going to go in this episode, I think that actually motorcycles and philosophy fit really well together. There's some really classic books on motorcycles and philosophy. And um, given that this is like the intimate philosopher, I think maybe we
Mhm.
just stay here and stay with this. I have this feeling or this idea, and I know I said it earlier, that motorcycling may be a surprisingly apt relationship or analogy for creating the engaged, active, passionate relationship uh, that I think we all want.
Ooh, yeah, let's stay with it. Let's just trust that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's this, I mean, there's so much here, but you were just talking about how for you, the flow state and the noticing of the details happened when you were riding with me, right? When you were riding on the back of my motorcycle, because that was a better match of the skill and challenge. Because it is actually, if you've never ridden a motorcycle, if you've never been a passenger, it's actually challenging to be a good passenger on a motorcycle, right? This is not just a completely relaxed endeavor.
No, no, it's not because I think you're very aware of what is happening. And also, I felt very aware of not wanting to make it more challenging for you.
Yeah. I mean, I remember we talked about that when even the first time that we went riding together. Um, one of the things that was the most meaningful to me about our, I guess, motorcycle riding career together was when you were thinking about going to get a license and taking the course. And one of the things that we talked about was that even if you didn't end up buying a motorcycle or wanting to ride on your own, that like it would probably make you a better passenger, to understand. all of that from an operator standpoint. And um, at least in my memory, that was the thing that like pushed you over the edge to go do it. I don't know if you remember that or not, but that's my memory that you're like, I kind of want to do this thing, but then, it costs some money and you're like, maybe it's a waste of a weekend. And I was like, I don't think it will be because I think it will make this better, probably for both of us, actually. But for me, as the writer, I think it would make it easier, like if you've had to experience this from your own perspective.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that is also my recollection of that for sure, because it made it more meaningful, right? Like, I'm gonna go do this thing, and I don't know, it's not an insignificant amount of money. I mean, it wasn't a life-changing amount of money, but it wasn't an insignificant amount of money, and it wasn't an insignificant amount of time because you wouldn't want learning a skill like that to be an insignificant amount of time. And yeah, it did end up being more meaningful, I think, because it was like, "Oh, regardless of what happens, I knew I loved riding with you."
Yeah.
And that actually was meaningful in and of itself because, I don't know if you know this about me, but other people have invited me on the back of their motorcycle, and I made that mistake exactly one time when I was, like, 18, and I went, "Never again," because I didn't trust that person, and that experience taught me that the only way I was going to, because you can't see anything. I don't think people realize if you haven't done this, like, you can't see in front of you. You can't see anything, and you better trust the person who is in front of you enough that you're okay literally riding blind. Literally riding blind. And by the way, if you try to look around them, you're gonna throw off the balance of the bike and possibly hurt both of you. So, like, it is a trust fall that until I met you, I was like, that's never happening again."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not an insignificant amount of risk either, right? Both for you to get on the back of my motorcycle and for you to go take the course on your own, right? Like that you said it's not an insignificant amount of time or money, but it's also it is personally risky. And so I think it was meaningful to have you do that. And it did make you a better passenger for sure. Um, and and I think that there is something about relationships in this too that um relationships are inherently risky,
Mm.
right? Like when you are vulnerable to another person, when you open yourself up to another person, you have literally or figuratively dropped your armor and allowed yourself to be vulnerable to hurt. Like we use the word vulnerable and it means something,
Mhm.
right? And so it is not without risk and there is a co-creation of the engagement in this thing that we want to do, creating a relationship that we want to be in together. And it requires the accepting of that risk. It requires the commitment of time and effort and money and, all of the other things and this shared vulnerability and shared practice and skill building, right? Like, I think that, you know, the first time we went on the motorcycle, I bought you a jacket and a helmet and the things that you needed for it to be just the bare minimum safety, right? Like, I couldn't just be like, "Yeah, why don't you ride with me?" And like, "Oh, sorry, like I don't have a jacket for you or I don't have, whatever." That's not there's not equal involvement or engagement in that. Like the stakes are not the same. And so I
Mhm.
think that there's this co-creation piece that matters. Like both people have to own their responsibility in this, and their commitment to this. I think one of the reasons that you trust me is because I've taken so many courses and that I've been doing this for a long time. And because of the way I ride with you and without you, and because of the kind of the boundaries that I've set up long before I met you about, like I don't ride if I'm angry. I don't ride if I'm really sad. I don't ride, if I'm drinking. I don't ride if I'm really tired, right? Like I've put all of these kind of boundaries around this thing because I want the engaged like flow state experience of writing like at its best, and that requires some boundaries around things or some how do I make this happen? And then when you add another person, that has to be co-created.
Mm. Yeah. Gosh, that is so true. That is so true. And I think about relationships and how many people say, I'm going to behave this way, or I'm going to show up in our partnership this way in order, specifically, in order to be a safe person for you to be on this journey with.
Yeah,
And it's not a lot. I mean, and that's not even, you can love somebody and not do that.
right.
Right? This is like an over the top. I mean, it's not over the top in like a bad way. It's over the top in this, what is the quality of what you are building and co-creating with another person? And that does require not just a level of engagement in this, hey, face to face, we're talking, but even when we're facing, I'm facing away from you, then I'm still going to make sure that you are safe with me on this journey. And gosh, that is so beautiful. That is
Yeah.
so beautiful. And I used the word quality. And would you take this moment to talk about where your relationship to quality kind of comes from? Because I think this is so beautiful.
I mean, oh god, I'm obsessed with quality. Are we
Yeah.
talking about Zen and the art? Is that what we're talking
Yes.
about here?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is.
So, um, I want to say one thing first, though, which is this. I want to carry the analogy out a little bit, which is there's this idea that relationships are supposed to be easy or whatever, and like you can get in a car with anyone. Not saying that it's
Mm.
truly safe, but like most of us don't think that much about getting in a car with somebody we know.
Sure.
Right, like and actually, we don't even think about it in getting in a car with strangers. Hashtag Uber, hashtag Lyft, hashtag taxis, right? You get in a car with anybody. Like, truly, I think we have I know that there are some differences, if you're a woman, if you're a small woman, right? There are some certainly with strangers that causes a little bit more anxiety.
Mhm.
But you're not getting on the back of a motorcycle with a stranger, right? That requires a lot more engagement and co-creation. And I think the same thing is true in relationships that like there's this idea that you should just be able to like, yeah, 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 like get in a car together and like you're good.
Mhm.
You don't like, yeah, you had to go get your driver's license, but after you got your license, like you're good from then on out. Like, no, that's not how this works in a relationship. And that's not how it works on a motorcycle. There is no like, yeah, I got my license, I'm good. There's like practice. Your skills decline if you don't practice, if you don't go and take courses repeatedly and learn things about this. And we're aware of that because the risk is high,
Mhm.
but so is the payoff. The same thing is true in relationships. The risk is high. You get your heart broken, you get your life torn apart, but the payoff is really high too, right? To have this like co-created, engaged a live relationship for the course of your life where you get to like do this with somebody, like the payoff is really high and you got to put in the work.
Mm.
It's not a passive thing. Yeah, I don't know. I could talk about quality and but like I kind of want to leave it there. Like
Okay.
I that just feels like we can talk about quality next time. Or we can talk about quality another time. But I think if you're curious, I guess I will say this. If you're curious about this idea of quality, which is related to engagement, I will argue that you can't have quality without engagement. I think those things are active. Like there is this so Robert Persig wrote this book years and years ago, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. He wrote two follow-on books on quality and Lila, I think is the third one. And I mean, it's a fascinating book, but it's an obsession with quality and what is quality and how do you know it? And he frames this as an English professor, and he it goes through this whole thing of how do you know if something is quality? Like, is it grades? Like, I can give you a piece of writing, though, and you can tell me if it's quality or not. I can put nobody's name on it, and you'll know. You'll read it, and you'll be like, "That's quality," or "That's not quality," but how do you know? How do you know? Like, how can you define it? And there's a whole bunch of things, but it's this story of him on a motorcycle trip, and the quality of the machine or the lack thereof, and the engagement that is required to make the thing run and for it to be safe and for it to be enjoyable, and not all of it is enjoyable, right? Like, but they're on this journey together, him and his son, and it's just a fascinating thing. And so if you're curious, it's a great read. My many copies have been given away and highlighted and underlined, and I just keep buying new ones and rereading it because I love it. And I think to bring it back to this, you can have a quality relationship and you can see a quality relationship when it's out there, but it takes engagement, it takes intention. That's
Oh,
not a passive thing. Quality is not passive.
I love that. I love that. I love that so, so much. And yeah, maybe that is the perfect place to do that, to leave it off with just that. And then eventually we will get to performance. But I think, yeah, that just seems like the perfect episode, especially for episode 30.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, friends, so if this is something that you are thinking about and want to know more about, then I encourage you to one, read the book that Dr. Olivia mentioned, which is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And if you have questions that come up from there, please feel free to reach out to the show at the Intimate Philosopher PhD. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Please feel. I messed up my own Instagram handle. Let's try that again. Okay. Oh my God, what is my the
You can
magic.
please feel free. You can reach out to the podcast at the Intimate Philosopher Podcast or to Dr. Emma at Emma Smith, PhD, or to me at Alivia Stehlik, PT.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I got you.
That's how she lets me know that we're not going to edit that out because apparently people actually like when episodes aren't perfect, by the way.
Because none of us are perfect. We're all human, and it's about being engaged.
There we go. All right. I'll sign off there. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me for this after hours conversation. If something in today's episode made you pause, get curious, or see yourself a little more clearly, share it with a friend and keep that conversation going. Until next time, keep exploring that messy, beautiful space between meaning and being human. I'll see you next time.